Hello everyone, welcome to Diplomatic Briefing. On the evening of June 5th, President Xi Jinping had a phone call with US President Trump at Trump's request. According to a commentary by the New York Times, after several weeks of escalating tensions between the world's two largest economies, this phone call could signal a possible easing in China-US relations. Meanwhile, mainland China's Observer Network quoted U.S. affairs expert Liu Xiang as saying that President Xi took the call at the request of the U.S. side, which clearly reflects the anxiety on the American side. According to a report by Politico on June 5th, sources revealed that over the past few months, Trump has been expressing a strong desire to speak with the Chinese leader, to the point of being almost obsessed with it. After the Trump administration announced the so-called reciprocal tariffs this April, China quickly responded with countermeasures against the U.S., including imposing export controls on a range of critical minerals and rare earth magnets. According to American sources, China's actions can be seen as a precise strike at the U.S.'s Achilles heel. Previously, Politico quoted insiders as saying that the Trump administration is now facing tremendous pressure. LV Chang believes that the U.S. thinks it holds many cards while China has few, but the cards China holds are actually very powerful. If China were to completely cut off its supply of rare earths to the U.S., even the remaining American manufacturing industry would face a huge threat. LV Chang emphasized that China will not accept any threats from the U.S. No matter whether the U.S. chooses cooperation or continues confrontation in the end, China has ways to respond. In summary, it all depends on what actions the U.S. takes. If anyone thinks that just because the Chinese and U.S. leaders had a phone call, China will completely relax and allow rare earth exports without any approval, that's impossible. If the U.S. makes any move, China will definitely not hold back either. At the same time, by playing this trump card, China is also sending a warning to other countries not to sacrifice China's interests just to reach an agreement with the U.S. Recently, companies from various countries have been getting anxious, all pleading for faster approval. After China strictly controlled the export of gallium, germanium, antimony, superhard materials, graphite, and other dual-use items to the U.S. last year, since April this year, China has introduced new export control measures on 7 categories of medium and heavy rare earth-related items. According to Nikkei Asia, as rare earth stockpiles are about to run out, Indian car manufacturers are feeling increasing pressure from export controls, worrying that their production lines will soon come to a halt. Japanese media quoted a senior executive in the Indian industry as saying that suppliers usually keep 3 to 6 weeks of inventory, and in some cases, even longer. It's easy to imagine that the stock will soon be completely depleted. This person mentioned the Chinese export permits, saying, "This means we have to complete a whole bunch of paperwork, and the entire process will be very lengthy." According to Japanese media, Indian importers' customs clearance applications must first be approved by India's Directorate General of Foreign Trade, then submitted to the Ministry of External Affairs, after that sent to the Chinese embassy in Delhi, then forwarded to the Chinese supplier, and finally submitted to China's Ministry of Commerce for final approval. The executive said that there are currently more than 20 applications from the Indian side waiting for approval. Another Indian industry executive also revealed that the urgency for Chinese approval is prompting the Indian government to take action. According to him, the Ministry of Heavy Industries, the Ministry of Commerce, and the Ministry of External Affairs in India are all providing support. This matter has already been reported to the highest level, and the Prime Minister's office is continuously following up. The Nikkei Asia report also mentioned that the Indian embassy in Beijing is coordinating a meeting between representatives of Indian automobile and auto parts manufacturers and the Chinese Ministry of Commerce, but the exact date has not yet been finalized. According to global automobile production data for 2024, India is the world's 4th largest car producer, after China, the United States, and Japan. After China tightened its export controls on rare earths, India's automobile production has faced supply chain challenges. Earlier, the South China Morning Post reported that India's electric vehicle sales last year exceeded 1.9 million units, accounting for 3.4% of the country's total vehicle sales. India's vehicle sales include all types of models such as two-wheelers and three-wheelers, but almost all of these models rely on imported parts from China. In 2024 alone, India imported electric vehicle batteries and magnets worth about $7 billion from China. Although India has around 6.9 million tons of rare earth reserves, due to underdeveloped domestic mining and processing capabilities, its electric vehicle production still relies on imports from China. In key raw material sectors, India also benefits from China's advanced refining facilities and highly efficient supply chain system. However, some analysts are concerned that this situation has revealed just how heavily India depends on China's supply chain. If India cannot make strategic investments and move towards self-sufficiency, it risks falling behind in the clean energy revolution. Mikla, the head of the automotive sector at a market research firm, pointed out that China's export restrictions on rare earth minerals, especially rare earth magnets used in electric vehicle motors, have had direct impacts. These include production delays due to shortages of key EV motor components, rising raw material costs, and a slowdown in the development of advanced electric vehicle motor technologies. In 2023, China processed over 200,000 tons of rare earths, while India's state-owned rare earth enterprises managed to process only about 10,000 tons per year. This gap highlights India's urgent need to modernize its refining capabilities. The report points out that although China's rare earth export controls are not specifically targeted at India, their ripple effects have indeed impacted the supply chain for these critical electric vehicle components. Some analysts believe that India must act quickly to mitigate the impact. Other analysts, however, think that India needs to move beyond an import-focused mindset in order to secure the future of its domestic electric vehicle ecosystem. In addition, the Financial Times in the UK also reported that European companies are lobbying China to set up a special channel to speed up the approval of rare earth export licenses for reliable companies. According to 3 people familiar with the matter, this proposal was put forward during a meeting between European businesses and officials from China's Ministry of Commerce last week. An executive from a European company who was familiar with the meeting said that various companies proposed creating a clean channel at the meeting, that is, establishing a whitelist system. Maros Šefčovič, the European Commissioner responsible for trade and economic security, said he has already discussed the issue of shortages of key components with China's Minister of Commerce, Wang Wentao. Another person familiar with the matter told the Financial Times that putting well-known companies on a whitelist is a standard practice in export and customs supervision, and this is common in customs clearance procedures around the world, including in China. If you are considered a reliable company with a good track record, then the chances of your company being inspected will decrease. People familiar with the meeting said that the relevant Chinese authorities have been overwhelmed by rare earth export license applications from all over the world, making it difficult to pick out applications that need to be fast-tracked. That's why companies want to set up this special channel for themselves. According to insiders, an exporter that usually exports 2,000 kilograms of rare earths a year has only received a license for 75 kilograms so far. Some participants believe that the Chinese side might use rare earths as a bargaining chip to prevent other countries from reaching bilateral trade agreements with the US that are unfavorable to China. A report from China Daily on May 28 quoted insiders as saying that at a recent symposium between Chinese and European semiconductor upstream and downstream companies, the Bureau of Industrial Security and Import and Export Control of the Ministry of Commerce explained the rare earth export control policy, so that companies and their key suppliers could better understand how to apply for licenses. In addition, another insider said that this move could mean China may relax rare earth export controls for the China-Europe semiconductor industry chain, in order to better maintain the stability of the global supply chain. As China tightens control over rare earth exports, car manufacturers around the world are looking for ways to respond. According to a report by the Wall Street Journal on June 3, some insiders revealed that certain car manufacturers and their suppliers are considering moving part of their auto parts production to China to bypass the export controls on rare earth magnets. This is because China's export restrictions only cover magnets, but not finished components. The report says that if car manufacturers eventually move part of their production to China, it would be a boomerang effect from the trade war initiated by Trump, as he has always insisted that raising tariffs was meant to bring manufacturing back to the United States. At the regular press conference of the Chinese Ministry of Commerce on June 5, a reporter from the Financial Times asked that many companies have already started complaining that China's rare earth export permits are too slow, their production is facing shutdowns, and some Japanese and European companies have already stopped production. How does China view this issue? Li Binghua, spokesperson for the Ministry of Commerce, stated that rare earths and related items have obvious dual-use attributes for both military and civilian purposes, and implementing export controls on them is a common international practice. The Chinese government reviews export license applications for dual-use items in accordance with laws and regulations. For applications that meet the requirements, China will approve them to promote and facilitate compliant trade. To sum up simply, this counterattack from China against Trump is indeed very powerful. Not only does it make Trump uneasy, but it also serves as a warning to other major economies not to sacrifice China's interests